My name is Anjal Jain, and I would like to welcome you to See Beyond, a podcast in which we meet people who tell us how they see beyond their visual impairment. Before we get started today, I would just like to remind you that you can tune in to See Beyond on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or even our website. Today, I'm here with Patrice Maginnis, an inspiring individual who's going to tell us about her journey. Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's beautiful here in Scotts Valley. It's 77 degrees and gorgeous.
Oh wow, yeah, no, it's definitely kind of hot right now, but I like it. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad. So, do you want to just dive in and get started?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so first, could you tell us a little bit about your visual impairment?
Yes, I was born with congenital, that means, of course, born,
Mhm.
retinitis pigmentosa. And
Okay.
I had symptoms immediately. I was always night blind, is what it was referred to as, which means I could never see in the dark or going from a bright lit area into a darker area, say sunshine to shade. And it would take
Oh,
maybe
okay.
15 seconds or so for my eyes to adjust. Um, and if it was very dark, they never adjusted. So that's where I started out. And then as I grew older, it's a progressive disease. I started losing more of my sight that I could use when things were well lit.
Hmm.
And I found it difficult to read regular print by the time I was in graduate school for
Hmm.
my music degree. And I used, at the time, readers to help me with that. But anyway, the disease continued to progress, and I continued to live my life since I couldn't do anything about it. So I went on with what I thought I wanted to do, and I was able, one way or another, to manage reading by sight a little bit with specialized um, equipment till I was about 60 years old, and now I'm 70. So I've lived the last 10 years without any ability to read or really see anything. I think people would say I have no visual acuity, but I also
Hmm.
don't have very much usable sight, except I have a little bit of light orientation left, which is very helpful.
Okay.
Like window light coming in during the day, and it sort of gives me an idea of where I am, and
Yeah.
it's definitely helpful. So that's my report.
Hmm. So you kind of said that you accepted it and you went on with what you wanted to do. So what is it that you did? Like, what were you passionate about, or what are you passionate about?
I was and am passionate about music of all kinds,
Uh-huh.
but in particular, without realizing it, I had a pretty strong background in classical music,
Oh,
because
wow.
I sang a lot. I grew up Catholic, and I
Mhm.
had a very nice voice, and even as a kid, and so I found myself chanting Gregorian Mass or singing what I thought was church music. And when I um, got to the university, I guess my hair was blonde at the time. I'm going to do a bad blonde joke, but anyway, they said, well, so you know who Brahms is? I said, oh yeah, he's one of the guys who writes church music. Bach too, he writes church music. Handel, yes. So I had this background, and I was, highly embarrassed because it didn't even occur to me. They were just guys, of course, mostly guys that were writing this music. So I had a little bit of a background in it without knowing. And then
Mhm.
my passion was singing, and I never really thought that I would uh, go on stage with singing because of my lack of um, being able to adjust from one light source to another. When you're on stage, there are very strong lights in your eyes.
Yeah.
So if you turn upstage, for me, the stage is now black. So I
Okay.
thought, no way, I won't sing. Opera or musical theater or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, But then when I was in graduate school, uh, the founding general director and Irene Dallas came back to San Jose and started Opera San Jose. She came from a world famous career, and she approached me, which was shocking, and asked me if I'd be in the opera workshop and try it. And I said, well, I don't think, there's lots of music I can do without that. And she said, but you're funny, and I need people.
Oh.
I need people who can connect with an audience. And what do you got to lose?
I love that. That's amazing.
I know. And she said, let's just try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I said,
Yeah.
yeah, but what about, I said, but you understand this, under stage lighting. And when I turn up stage, she said, you understand this. You can be in charge of a lighting designer. I can be in charge, she said, really. I'll just have them bring up the lights subtly
Oh,
so
okay.
you to get off stage. I went, huh, so that easy? So I pursued a career in opera at Opera San Jose because of this very special relationship I had with the artistic director. And she had glow tape on the edge of the stage, so I didn't fall into the pit, which would be so unfortunate for all. And I sang about 10 leading roles with Opera San Jose before I
Wow.
felt that it was too dangerous to continue. The sets were getting more complicated. You'd have to go up and down stairs, and the glow tape I couldn't see so much anymore. So I resigned. The miracle is the experience I had gave me a really lovely resume, along with other singing that I did off stage with regular like concert singing. So I could present that resume to really pursue my lifelong passion would be teaching and teaching classical voice, because I
Oh,
had
wow.
a gift for it. And not everybody has a gift for it. It's a tricky area,
Yeah.
and mostly you have to be able to hear extremely well, and that I could do. So um, that brought me to my main part of my career, which was I taught at UC Santa Cruz for almost 30 years, and I was head of the voice department. I'm
Oh,
proud to say,
wow.
yeah,
That's
many,
amazing.
many, many students are out there still singing, um, um, whom I taught, and my colleagues helped also to give them great experience in singing and singing on stage and all kinds of experience. So I was really lucky. I lived my dream, um,
Yeah, I
regardless.
love that. And
Yeah.
you know what they say, like they say, if there's a will, there's a way. And like at first,
Mhm.
as you mentioned, like you didn't know if you would be able to perform on stage because of the whole like lighting situation. But they were able to bring up the lights, and you were able to perform in opera. So I think that's amazing. Um,
Yeah, it
I
was amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wanted to ask you, so I actually learned classical music, so I really love talking about this with you right now.
Oh,
Um,
great.
yeah, so when I learn classical music right now, through my school, a lot of my teachers emphasize the importance of being able to sight read. And I know for a lot of people out there who are aspiring to be classical singers, who may have visual impairments, I wanted to ask if you would have any advice of how you're able to sight read, or how you're able to do that.
Well, I um, ran into that problem pretty much right away at school. You start
Yeah.
out with taking classes called musicianship,
Hmm.
and I thought, oh, because I could see the notes sort of, but it took me a long time to decipher what they were, and I was in the habit of memorizing them once I figured them out. Um, but I couldn't just sight read, when it was called for. So um, at the beginning, my teachers were resistant and said, well, if you can't sight read, you can't be a musician. I said, wait a minute. There are a lot of blind musicians and
Yeah.
classical musicians. So there is a way, and I will show you what I can do. You
Oh,
give me that
wow.
sight reading book, you give me 12 measures, and you give me 2 minutes, and um, I can sing it for you from memory.
Wow.
And so they said, okay, okay,
Mm.
this can work. And uh, um, so you're right, sight reading is so important, but also finding a way that is parity, I think, and still being able to do um, the work like everybody else did. That's always, at the bottom of having a disability, I think,
Mhm.
is that you're never going to be and like everybody else. And really, nobody is like everybody else, and nobody is normal. But it takes you a long time to figure that out, especially if you have a disability as a child. So, I used to have to take speed reading classes
Mhm.
in grammar school. I cheated. I used to go to, how you're not supposed to look at the questions at the end. Well, I
Oh.
would. And then
Oh, okay.
and then I'd read it. So I didn't have to yeah, so anyway, it was like, why am I confessing this to you? However, I did find ways. I felt like just because I couldn't do it like everyone else was doing it didn't mean I couldn't actually get it done on
Yeah.
some level. And and I can honestly say that I had a remarkable mother who um, never put limits on me, always challenged me. If you want
Yeah.
that, you want to do that, how are you going to do that? Tell me, she said, what's your plan?
Yeah, no,
You know,
I definitely, from like you telling me about these experiences, I can definitely see that you definitely like self advocated for yourself a lot. And I know for a lot of people out there, maybe like teenagers, especially who have visual impairments, sometimes it's really hard to like self advocate for yourself and,
hmm
like put yourself out there. So, what advice do you give for people who are kind of scared to self advocate for themselves and, put themselves out there?
I think it's good to have a plan before you enter into self advocating. And
Okay.
that plan would be how you propose you you could do it with accommodation, or um, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is going in and saying all the reasons why you can't do something, that's fine. People
Yeah.
should know that.
Mhm.
But I think to be successful, you also have to think of a way to do it or something like it. That I find if you go in to anyone with a problem, it's really great to have a solution.
That's
Um,
yeah. I
so
totally
it
agree,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, and so that's one thing. But it takes a long time to even, well, it depends on the person, but to be able to stand up for yourself and say what you need. And I think that that is something that um, is really scary until
Mhm.
you do it the first time, and maybe you'll run into somebody who is not particularly open, so your worst fears are realized, so it can only go up from there.
No, yeah,
Yeah, you know.
I love that you said, like, come up with a solution yourself. I think that's amazing, like, that's so important to do. I think everyone can take that advice.
Yeah, yeah. In the working, I ended up working at Opera San Jose for many years before
Yeah.
I started teaching at UCSC, and I never walked into that artistic director's office. Again, Irene Dallas, she was a brilliant, brilliant woman and great singer. But I'd walk in and say, so and so is such and such. She said, well, I said, here's what I suggest. So I would never go in and say, yeah, well, that guy's mean.
Yeah, because I mean,
Or
then
that
it's
guy's
like you have
lazy.
a yeah, then it's like you have a negative mindset almost. Like you need to have something
Exactly.
positive, yeah, after.
Yeah. So I would go in with a problem and give her three solutions.
Oh,
And,
that's amazing.
but she was very direct. And I
Mhm.
realized how valuable that is in the world of trying to uh no, I'm not against political correctness, I'm all for it, but about avoiding discussing something in a clear, direct manner because of afraid you're going to hurt someone's feelings, all of that, I think you can end up in a big pile of quicksand. You're sinking and nothing got accomplished because you didn't know how to just say, I need help here.
Yeah,
And here's why.
exactly.
So I think that it's a challenge. And, but it can be met.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid. What's the worst that can happen? That's the advice I'd give. What's the worst that could happen? Somebody shut you down.
Yeah.
All right. So then learn from it and figure out a better way to do it
Hmm.
or go a different route. Yeah.
That's so inspiring. I
What you're
love that. That's
afraid
the
of is
advice.
often much worse than what the reality. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's so helpful for people,
Good.
that they could be able to use. And yeah, it takes guts. It's going to take some tries to do at first, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually you'll get there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so earlier in the beginning of this podcast, you were talking about how you enjoyed like reading and you use devices to like help you read. So I kind of wanted to transition over to that topic and ask you, so why do you enjoy reading?
Um, Again, my mother
Hmm.
read to us when we were very small. We had 6 kids in the family, and and at night before we went to bed, she'd read us a chapter from some book or another, and she was always reading, and
Hmm.
I, well, actually, she was worried about me keeping up in school, and I was the last kid home, and so she taught me to read and write in this beautiful script that the nuns didn't want me to use, but because I didn't know how to print, but I could write when I went to kindergarten, and
Okay.
I, could read the newspaper to anybody, and so if you take enough time, even with a 3-year-old, they're going to learn a lot, especially if they want the attention and they have the kind of focus that I happened to have. So I read very early, and I used to
Hmm.
read to my little brother, when I was say 5 and he was 1. So try to get him to listen and learn. So I came from a huge family of readers, and when I couldn't read anymore by sight, it was a grieving. It was a death of sorts, because I loved to hold a book and smell a book, and the freedom of just going anywhere I wanted to read that book. All of a sudden, I had machines to deal with, and in the early 80s, when I stopped reading visually, there were these huge cassette players that were hideous, and and so now I can read books on my iPhone, I can read books on my computer, I can read books on something designed for the blind called a Victor Reader Stream,
Victor
and
Reader Stream.
here it is.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how do you spell that just for the people who are listening? So,
It is Victor, then reader. Stream is STREAM, just like the regular word.
okay.
And it is made by a company called Humanware. And
Okay.
many visually impaired people lose. That's pretty funny. Lose it, they do, because it's small, and use it. And it not only has books that you can download from the National Library Service, the BARD system, which is the Braille and um, reading downloads. So it's digital downloads. That's what I'm trying to say here, and I can't remember the, the different words in the acronym. However, um, you not only can download books from the the Congressional Library, basically
Hmm.
millions of books. You can download podcasts. You can take notes. It's a recording device. And
Yeah.
you can, gosh, it does so many things. I can't even think of all of them. And it has an SD card in it, and it also has
Oh,
Wi-Fi. So you can download, but
wow.
you can also store. You can, take your notes that you did audibly and move them over to your computer.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a really amazing device.
Hmm.
There are many. I don't mean to just plug the Victor Reader Stream, but it's probably the one most people use who are visually
Yeah.
impaired. If they like this device, a lot of people don't bother with it. They use their phone. and as do I, many times. So for pleasure, that's how I read. For
Okay.
profession, I had something called a CCTV, and it's basically a magnifier, also a closed circuit television where you put reading material down under the camera, and it comes up on the screen. You can adjust it. It can be huge. It can
Oh.
be white lettering on a black background, and that's how I learned my music.
Oh, that is wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would learn it and memorize it. So when I went to a first rehearsal,
Mhm.
let's say with the orchestra to do a concert or whatever, um, I was already memorized. And
Wow. That's so
so that,
impressive.
well, I
That's
had no
so
choice. See, it can be
yeah, yeah.
impressive, but I have a great friend who's a brilliant conductor. Her name's Nicole Paiement, and she knew I hated first rehearsals because I was testing my memory.
Mhm.
And so it would come to my movement, if I was singing the soprano solo, and I'd stand up and, gut my way through it. Not really great singing because I was worried about how many measures of rest do I have to count before I come back in. And I'd get through it. And she'd go, okay, good. Let's do it again. Because she knew me. She knew I had to get through it once and then we could work on it.
So just to clarify this, what is it called again? A CC, what is it called?
It's a CCTV. I know there's an actual term for it. Um, darn it. Anyway, it's again a magnification device, and why can't I think of the name of that?
So you just put the physical copy like in on or
Uh-huh.
under the
Yes. And now the physical copy, you put it under there, and it's on a table with ball bearings,
okay.
so you can move it smoothly up and down or back and forth.
Wow,
Um,
okay.
Now they're so sophisticated that you just put a text under there, um, a printed text, not necessarily
Yeah.
OCR yet, but and it reads it to you out loud and
Oh, wow.
immediately, and then you can also read it visually and adjust it if you like.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it isn't. If there is something like that for learning notes, and there are some programs for note learning,
Mhm.
um, they're complicated. They're still very complicated. It's not easy.
So
So,
you'd recommend like the CCTV and trying to magnify it as much as you can.
well, if you have the vision, use the vision.
Mhm.
It's just, sometimes there was a time when people thought, no, don't use the vision because you're going to lose it anyway. So, get a head start and learn it all. And maybe for some people psychologically that works. But I,
Okay.
I feel like, if you can see, let's see if there's a way for you to use your sight comfortably while you have it. Or maybe you'll always have it,
No, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely.
Yeah. So that is the closed circuit television is a great device for
Mhm.
people who have low vision, but still have some ability to use that vision. Um, and the computer is a great help too. I mean, uh, it it's such a gift
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of the technical ability to go online to I just downloaded books from the bard system for a client this morning and backed them up on a thumb drive.
Yeah.
The things you can do are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Technology is so advanced these days. Anything is possible. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, I kind of wanted to transition over to your relations with the Vista Center. So, for those who don't know who are listening today, can you just tell us a little more about like the Vista Center, what they are, what they do?
Sure. The full title of the organization is the Vista Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Hmm.
And there are 3 locations here in the San Francisco Bay Area. The main office is in Palo Alto. We also have a location in San Jose and in
Hmm.
Santa Cruz, and that's where I am. So I
Okay.
live in Scotts Valley, which is basically in Santa Cruz County, sort of at the edge of it before you go over the mountains to go into the valley. So
Okay.
anyway, the Vista Center, yes, when we for sure amongst ourselves call it Vista or the Vista Center, it is a place where people can come who are losing their sight, who don't really have a lot they can do anymore with um, eye doctors to improve their
Mhm.
sight. And they often come to us first for a low vision exam. And that's something, boy, I wish was around when I was, out of steam, as it
Yeah.
were. So you come in and um, a specialist, uh, an optometrist who specializes in low vision, will ask you things like, do you still see in colors? Do you
Okay.
still, do you still, are you able to read? Can you tell when a lamp is on or off? All these questions that you think, what? But they're
Mhm.
all relevant. And this, what's wonderful about the Vista Center is that it is a holistic approach. So as the low vision specialist finds out where you're at in your journey, and gives you good practical advice. Even the sunglass lenses you wear can really help to take glare away, to help you to see better. Um, so there's a lot that can be done, and
Mhm.
at the very least, someone to talk to who understands
Yeah.
what you don't see, which
Mhm.
is really a real comfort. And
Yeah.
then we have social workers who will explain all the various kinds of services Vista offers if you're ready to do that. And
Mhm.
amongst those are lots of classes on assistive technology, which I teach. Like I held up the Victor Reader stream.
Oh, okay.
I am a whiz at the Victor Reader stream.
Okay, so if you want to
I
learn
don't mean
more
to
about
brag.
that. So no, but
Uh,
if you're listening and you want to learn more about the Victor Reader stream, definitely head over there.
yeah. But also, I help clients. I think I'm the one trainer who's very dedicated to the Macintosh. I love using it. I
Mhm.
also can use the PC with screen reader, but I like to use Macintosh with their embedded screen reader voiceover. And can teach classes in iPhone with voiceover. So there are
Okay.
other classes for low vision where people can still use their sight, and we have a teacher who can tell you how to use your sight. But then there are things you can do just using voiceover a little bit to help you use your phone when
Yeah.
you're sort
Okay.
of in between being blind and not. And that, and then that's what I love about the approach at Vista, is that they really embrace everybody wherever they are at and try to help them. And our social activities are I think so important.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I
I
know.
moderate the book club in Santa Cruz.
Oh,
Funny
that's
thing,
so lovely.
reading
Okay.
continues, and we all
Yeah.
read by year. And our book club is called Get an Earful, and it's a wonderful group of people. And isolation is a
Mhm.
very, very real part of being blind. You can be very isolated at a cocktail party. Trust me, kid. It's
No,
if
yeah, yeah.
everybody's loud and and it's chaos, it's just like, okay, I'll just be over here in the corner, and maybe no one will. I never drink red wine when I'm out in a crowd. I've learned my lesson. White wine or nothing. So anyway, um, but it's isolation is a tough thing, and
Yeah.
getting together and talking, whether, I mean, it used to be wonderful when we were all in the same room and giving each other energy and caring. Now we are on conference calling and Zoom like everyone else, but our readership, our membership has actually increased since then. And perhaps at the heart of it all, I think also, so I've just said, we give access technology, we
Mhm.
have book clubs, we have poetry clubs, we have lots of people who do hiking, kayaking, all of that. And then I think the heartbeat is our support groups, to help people to be able to express what they're going through and get help from others. And to me, the one I find amazing is the peer mentor support groups. So
Oh,
everybody in the room has a visual disability of some sort,
yeah.
including the person running the session. And I think um, that kind of kinship, it's amazing. I have a friend who runs that group, and uh, everybody in that group is so tight. It's like a posse.
Oh, I love that.
And
That's so
no,
cute.
and they're wonderful. But I just always think, wow, they are definitely attached at the hip because they have been through it all together
Mm-hmm.
and they've shared it. And also our support groups. We have a Spanish speaking support group. We
Mm-hmm.
have English speaking, and I think our social workers are top notch. They're compassionate. They're not pushy, but they are ready to help when you need it. And you couldn't ask for more. So, I mean, and Vista is constantly growing, and we are
Yeah.
constantly looking at other ways we can help clients. I don't, that there isn't a sense of complacency. And in this time of COVID, in this time of um, financial stress, we're, very, very pressed, like most nonprofits right now,
Mm-hmm.
and we're doing the best we can. And
Yeah.
during this pandemic, we actually called every single one of our clients we could reach, and that's over 3,000.
Oh
And
my
we
God.
have checked in with them. Does anybody need groceries? We have an amazing um, volunteer system, and I am the volunteer coordinator in Santa Cruz as well. But there are people there ready to help other people, and so I think it's a community of wonderful, caring, smart, inventive people.
That's so beautiful. And just like hearing about this from you makes me feel so comforted.
Well,
So I think like the main thing for this is like, I think social isolation is like very real. It's like a very real thing that like a lot of people don't actually know about. And so definitely it seems like Vista Center is such an amazing place to like be with other people, who like relate to
hmm
you.
and I can say I, other than my older brother, and I moved from St. Louis when I was like 14. He stayed behind. He was older, who has the same eye condition. I didn't know any blind people. I was working in the sighted world.
Yeah.
And when I retired, someone asked me to help teach a class, for using voiceover on the iPhone. And the rest is history. All of a sudden, I met other people who are blind, um, and it was a gift to me because I realized that I had so much in common, um, that I never really shared before
Hmm.
because I didn't have anyone to share it with. So I found the Vista Center for myself. It gave me purpose, but it also gave me that comfort and that community as a client.
Hmm.
And that's why I started volunteering as well. When I needed help, Vista was there for me. And they helped me when I transitioned from using that CCTV to using the computer and learning screen readers, which is not um, for the light, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not easy. Got a very sharp learning curve to learn screen reading programs.
Hmm.
And I had a trainer, and I had that trainer until I felt like I could work on my own. I felt very grateful that
Yeah.
that was given to me. So um, it was great to give back, and I love it. I love being part of the community, and I love having the purpose.
Yeah, and definitely for those who are like tuning into this podcast, I'll be leaving the Vista Center's like website and information, and it'll be attached to this episode. So definitely look for that, so that if you're interested, you can go contact them. So I think that is it for today. It was so amazing talking to you and listening to all of your experiences.
It's a pleasure talking to you too. And I think this is a wonderful project that you're doing. And sometimes I forget how um, people your age um, are so much more aware of the world because of the nature of technology and all around us. And I really appreciate that you are giving back. You're
Oh,
very young and you're starting to become part of the world and doing something great for other people. And thank you for doing this.
oh, well, thank you for coming. I really hope that these episodes will help people see beyond their visual impairment, you know?
Mhm.
So, as we're nearing the end of this episode, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe so you are notified when a new episode is posted. Rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. And thank you so, so much for listening. And I hope you are leaving with some great things that will help you see beyond.